And we're live.
Talk, talk.
Check. We're live. Yep. Let's see. Check it again.
Talk.
We're live on the Lions Gate. Can you say hi, Davide?
Hi.
Yes. Lions Gate stream.
Talk.
Yeah. It's a good thing no one's actually here yet because that was probably loud. See, James was in here before. What's up, James? Hey.
Talk.
We're just gonna stay here with Davide and wait for people to come in. Davide, what's your favorite lion sound? What does the lion say?
Anybody.
What does the lion say? What does the lion say? Yeah, white. Hey everybody, welcome in. Davide's here on the Lion's Gate. All right, say bye-bye.
Bye.
Are you gonna go have some ice cream?
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds awesome. There you go, buddy.
Let's go.
I'm gonna go with mommy. Whoop-hum. Thanks, Mama. Vacuum, that's what he said. Yep. he said vacuum. He goes that door. Thank you. Bye. Hey everybody, welcome to the stream. Just hanging out with my furry friend. What's going on? Hey, one of my biggest favorite supporters. What's up, Kabir? How you doing? It's Kabir the Leo. I know you are a Leo, right? Your birthday or your day of Analema is probably around here. Happy Analema. That's what I wanted to start up here with. Just talking a little bit about 8/8, Lions Gate, talking a little bit about whatever that is. If anybody has any, oh yeah. By the way, I gotta put this comments to the StreamYard here. This is a call-in show, so feel free to call in. I've never tried this before, and I think it'd be really cool. I don't know. I thought it would be really cool. Oh wow! Happy breath return day to the sister. 8/8. Bunch of lions in the family. Sweet. Positive, negative, potential, Father Sky, Mother Earth. This intersecting axis right here of this hyperboloid can also be seen as a hyperboloid with this is the nature of the realm right here. The nature of the realm. Electromagnetic. This is the electromagnetic nature of our heart. Right here where they intersect, where these two spheres of spiritual influence, we could say, intersect, we have a third body. We could call that the tertium quid. That is the Vesca Pisces, and this is right here, right in our heart. This is where it is. And I really think that is kind of one of the biggest meanings of 8/8 Lions Gate is not about New Age manifestation, but it's this realization of these axes, which is electromagnetic, which is projective in the dielectric sense right here, this dialectrical plane, and magnetic, which is poling. So yeah, that's all what's going on right there. Leo, the tropical sign that we're in, rules the heart. And it's one of the things that I was thinking about that's really interesting is we got the Mazzaroth, which is the astrological man, so to speak, right? You have your Aries as your head and in the upper part of your eyes, Taurus the bull with your mandible and your voice box, and Gemini starts to split off the bronchioles in the arms, and as soon as it hits Gemini, it's like, to me, that's when it feels like the summertime. But there's so much time in between Gemini and Leo in the Mazzaroth. And in comparison with all the other signs, which start to move really quick. I mean, from Capricorn, the kneecaps, to Aquarius, the ankle bones, that's the same amount of space as from here to almost to my belly button. But we have 3 signs. And one of the things I was dwelling about that earlier today, I was just thinking, this is the time of year where the analema, the other 8 that we have, that's 8 in nature, the analema, the sun goes up, comes back down, crosses around, big down there. Where the analema is up here in the summer months, this is this cross right here is this is tax day, April 14th. Shout out to my whiteboard brother, Slick Dissident, for bringing that up. The tax is the TAX. It's 3 letters that are take away the vowel. You have 2 crosses in the word. So where you have a cross, T, you also have the X. Anyway, everything that's up here from tax day is much shorter nights. And so the less astral influence beyond the sun, I'm starting to wonder if that has an effect on the slowing down of the Mazzaroth from Gemini right here to Cancer, which is the protective area of the heart, and into Leo, which is that will center of the heart, the electromagnetic charge of the heart. And we can even say the solar panels of our body, the long solar panels. One of the things I remember about Kabir is meeting him a few years ago. He's got a big, long solar panel. So I could tell he was a Leo. I could tell he was a Leo from a long ways away. What's up, polymathing? Nice to see you, brother. Yeah, there's another grand whiteboard brother in the house. Yes. Right? Everyone that's cool is doing it, right? We're all busting out our whiteboards. Love it. I think it's really cool. So yeah, I'm stoked to just come on and rap a little bit about herbs in this time of year. Herbs, the Lion's Gate, electromagnetism. I don't really have a big plan. I would love if some of y'all want to jump on and take it away. I'll put this stream in this comments once again. But I do have a couple of slides. The one thing I wanted to start with, actually, or I guess we're already there. We've already started. But one thing I'm going to bring up. Share screen here. How about that? How about some support for the channel? How about I mute my phone? That's my mom. She's going to try and sign in. So yeah, you know what? We make these really awesome Leo inspired herb kits. And I think I have 1 or 2 left. They're hot like the sun. I have a lot of awesome classes that I do every year. And Liam's in the house. What's up, dude? And the herbal consultations, those have been really cool. Those have been amazing. I've loved the biofield tuning that I've been incorporating into my clinical work. I like to say that now, with the addition of biofield tuning, as an herbal practitioner, that I'm stabbing in the light. That's what I'm doing. Sometimes in an interview in the past, I always felt like maybe I was stabbing in the dark, like just, I'm led into a direction of the interview through questions and everything like that. Well, with one of our recent clients that I had been she's been a client of mine for a long time. And she was actually probably my first herbal client when I first started doing consultations, way long time ago. And so since then, we've consulted many times. I had her case history. I had it all down. I knew her. But then she booked a consultation with me, a biofield tuning with me. And once I got into the biofield, it revealed so much more that I never ever got to in the interview. And it made me remiss. Are my interview skills like so subpar that I was able to miss all of this extended heart-based, solar plexus-based childhood trauma that led to the things that I've been working with this woman for 4 years? And it was just really profound and beautiful in order to feel these I don't know, this electromagnetic field through the ether. So it's been extremely reliable, and I feel like it's been a great game changer. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, tippecanoeherbs.com. So we got ourselves some mug heads in the house. If anybody doesn't get that reference, that's okay. Some of us are into mugwort. You know what I did the other day? Actually, I did a face mask with bentonite clay and some mugwort, and then I had mugwort hydrosol, and that was awesome. I had such great dreams that night. It was crazy. It actually carried on for like 2 or 3 days. Yeah, there's the thing about in the biofield tuning, Heartwood Healing says, how beautiful that you could feel it without her having to verbalize it. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It is, if I'm doing everything correctly, I am not projecting any healing into our treatments. I am simply witnessing and reflecting back. And a person, when they find that information reflected back to them, adjust it. And the body's vitality is capable of having great breakthroughs. That is so much more effective than forcing prescriptive ideas and having somebody give away the license of their authority to a practitioner, as what's very common in medicine today, and even in natural medicine spaces as well. So, and yeah, I won't even have the words to verbalize it. It was just a matter of what the tuning fork was feeling, putting names to certain things, and then wondering, hey, wow, there's really a lot of intensity that feels in my tuning fork. There's certain ways of discerning the sounds. If I strike a tuning fork right now, it would have boom. If we put it into the electromagnetic etheric field of somebody with a disturbance in a particular area, that fork will have a particular quality of sound. In this case, it was a lot of fear and anxiety. It was almost like you could see the fork shaking a lot more, and it moves through me. And I try to put myself in an alpha state where I'm really, really aware of these feelings. And so the question became immediately in this biofield tuning kind of interview, almost, what's up with all this? What's up with all this fear in childhood? There's a lot of it there. Anyway. Greetings, y'all. Greetings to you. Let's get going. I had a couple of slides here that I prepared and just wanted to kind of go through these maybe and see if there's anything that I want to talk about until somebody jumps on. Tuned in Denton. So this is some keywords for the Leo. I'm really feeling the Leo energy going on right now. I know that this is the tropical time for Leo, and one of the things about sidereal astrology, which is also very interesting to me and something that I would say true sky sidereal, something that I've been practicing at getting better at, is recognizing what's going on in the sky as more of an astronomer point of view of connecting through the archetypes, as opposed to the, what's handed through the Hellenistic astrological books down. But still, nevertheless, like this part of the year where I am in Wisconsin, it seems like there are major themes in the season that are in line with the tropical season of astrology. And so that's why I'm going to talk about it. Willpower, our courage Courage, with courage, you get core, charisma, royal, loyal, regal, ray, as in the king, as in the rays of the sun. Lions hang out, a group of lions, it's called a pride. It's the pride of the Leo. Soliciting, that's the soul, eliciting the sun, or eliciting your will of the sun, soul, heart. I think gold is a really great representative color of this. Okay, there was something I was talking with my homie James from Family Fungi about before we jumped on here. And let's see here. Just getting the hang of this, y'all. And he was asking about herbs for courage. And we were talking about that. He had I hope that he gets it figured out so he could jump on, because one of the things that came to mind as soon as he said that was borage, the herb borage. Let me see if I could find a picture of borage. Borage is the chief delegate of the Boraginaceae family. I love it when plants are named after a particular plant, like the Rosaceae family. One of the things that always comes to mind when a plant is named after a particular, the family is named after a particular plant, that it's the delegate that goes down to the center of the earth and petitions to the creator in the underworld on behalf of all the other plants. And so I just imagine all of the plants that are in this Boraginaceae comfrey family here, being, asking this. Let's see here. Sorry. Trying to figure out how to do a bunch of stuff at once. No. And trying to ignore my son screaming upstairs. That's he's poor guy. He's just really tired. Here's borage. Borage for courage. What about this plant inspires courage is my question. And I think it's really interesting to look at the doctrine of signatures to find ways of determining virtues that are not measurable through the scientific method. So first of all, the word borage is perhaps like it comes from the same word as courage. I think that there was an inversion, at least somewhere along the lines. There's an old Latin saying. It goes like this: ego boraggio, I borage, ego boraggio, guardia semper ago. Always bring courage. So, my Latin sucks, but thankfully I have a Latin-speaking spouse, so that's good. I could do that. So, what's up with borage? Why does it always bring courage? Well, we have a flower. In order to photograph this flower, the photographer had to get with their back on the ground and point the camera up into the sky, because borage as a flower blooms with this father-son azure flower facing down. 5 petals. And then right here in the center, that little thing, it's like a stamen that sticks straight out, and it's almost like a conical pyramid, sticks straight out, and it's black, which is a really interesting color. You don't see black a lot in nature, so that's really, really cool that's like deep black, unless it's like seeds, and so I always think about this plant as having like a correspondence with Saturn too, because it's like hanging its head down, and it's hard to keep it up, and it's got the black in there, which is correspondent to Saturn. And anyway, all these little hairs that are on the plant that have this kind of nervousness feel to it. It's bristly to handle. And the old timers, and even some of us new timers, we love to make borage pesto. We love to take borage and grind it up and put it into ravioli. That's like an old-fashioned Italian tradition. And it's just a really nutritious plant. It's got theoretically some potential things that we got to look out for. And so let's discuss those. It's because it's in the Boraginaceae family, which includes comfrey. It's got high pyrrolizidine alkaloids. Pyrrolizidine alkaloids are connected with they're thought to be a cause of particular types of liver disease, but those claims have not been substantiated in the actual world. So what they can substantiate is taking pyrrolizidine alkaloids, synthesizing them, putting them into a laboratory rat who is outside of his or her natural environment, and fed glyphosate chunks of grain, and then they take this pyrrolizidine alkaloid extract and they inject it straight into the rat, or they put it into a feeding tube, and eventually that rat will develop some sort of liver toxicity associated with pyrrolizidine alkaloids, right? Yeah, okay, so that's clear. Well, we would like to see evidence of that substantiated in here, with people who claim to eat a lot of comfrey or claim to ingest a lot of borage, but it just doesn't seem to be the case. So I'm not really sure about that. I don't really believe that could be the case. I also know that these pyrrolizidine alkaloids are neutralized once the plant goes into its flowering stage, which is also the time that you would harvest it anyway. By the way, I've got some beautiful borage in my garden right now, and it usually it's got this also like Jupiterian quality, which is just abundant. It just keeps growing and growing and falling down and growing up and growing. To me, its main virtue is its nutritional qualities to the adrenals, to the adrenal cortex. It's really, really nourishing to the adrenals. Yeah, this is true. Oh, it's all bad for the liver, right? There's another one that just gets a really bad rap, and that's kava kava, and that might be deservedly so. It's just they just like cooked the book so much on the science of that it's really hard to tell. So I won't get into that right now, but I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical whenever they talk about these types of things, because a lot of times out of one side of the mouth they'll say it's toxic for the liver, and on the other side they'll say just take Tylenol for a fever, right? That's the most toxic thing for your liver I think there is. So this is really interesting here, liking cactus for courage, because I think that there's some qualities about the borage and the cactus that are similar, as in like it's becoming, it looks beautiful, but it's also not something that I necessarily want to just like get up and handle. It actually takes a little bit of courage to harvest the borage in order to put it into the pot. It makes your hands kind of itchy. It's not the same as a cactus. But yeah, when I prepare borage, I usually prepare the fresh plant right away into food or into a tincture. And I haven't really worked too much with the dried plant for tea. However, I made a tincture for our Aries box that had a lot to do with the adrenals. And I think the adrenals are in the wheelhouse of Libra, right on top of the kidneys, and it's across the axis from Aries. And the way that I was putting it in my mind was that Aries has this ability to start something and go like a match, and then all of its like kind of potential is in the combustion part, and it just kind of withers out. And so I wanted to make a tincture that would help somebody in the start of the year have like carry them through this, whatever it is that they had the courage to take up. and so that's why I was working with it in this particular way, in a tincture. I've worked with it for people who are just in excess, super duper duper sympathetic stress mode. Like they've been in fight or flight for a long time. You can think about people who are living as refugees, or people who are maybe trying to pay the bills by working, 3 jobs until late at night, and also like taking care of the kids or something like that. Just like total stress, really a lot of that. So I think it's nourishing. That's what I think. It's not like some herbs that make you feel courageous because of the way that they stimulate your vitality. I think it, and I also want to say the word courage is core, which is your heart, your core, and ago. So corago. So we already talked about ago, which is I bring. So in other words, the word courage, literally etymologically broken down, is I bring heart. I bring heart. And it has nothing to do necessarily with, in fact, it has nothing to do at all with dispelling fear. I think courage requires fear in order to be courage. Like that's what, like there has to be fear in order to have courage to push into it. Otherwise, it's just, I don't know. It's a mundane habit. The other day I took a firearms course, and I never had any training at all in firearms. Never grew up with any of that around our house. All of my friends growing up, that wasn't a thing. And so the fact of holding a gun it was actually scary to me. Like, that's what it was. It was all about like, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to learn how to use this tool. Like it's not a reaction. I'm not, learning how to use a firearm because I'm scared. I'm learning how to use a tool because I want to learn how to use it, but actually holding it brings fear in me. It was something. But in that experience too, just like with firearms training, you get to a point where it doesn't have that same fear. With chainsaw, it might be scary the first few times. You've been doing it all your life, and it doesn't require courage to start up the chainsaw anymore. And so it required some courage to pick this up and it will require courage to continue on learning this particular skill. So I conjure borage for that. Let's see here. And anybody want to call in? Oh, we got James here. What's up? Here, I got my headphones on.
Hey,
Check.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hey, what's up?
Right. Hey, I got the boys here with me. Ja really wants to show his rocks. You want to show your rocks, buddy? There's one. He wrote his name on it.
Hey, Joffrey,
Yeah,
how's it
one more.
going?
Can you show up? I
He
can't
said, "Hey, how are you doing? Can you hear?"
Hey, Joffrey.
Hey.
We started out this stream with Davide in a lion suit. My son Davide's got this really cool lion suit, and he was really excited to come on and show that too. I happen to have a rock collection right in this room too, but it's over there, so you'll just have to believe me.
He's talking about he has a nice rock collection as well.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite things to do. Is picking up rocks. And actually, I got in the habit when I was younger of licking them when I picked them up. I don't know. I don't know where that came from, but apparently it came from my old man. So, yeah, it's just like restores the shine and the beauty of the rock when it's under rain. Yeah. So how you doing, James?
Doing well, yeah. I was catching some of the stream, and I was just trying to get things set up upstairs.
Tell about your tooth.
Later. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So Joffrey is a Leo and just turned 5 on Tuesday, and we tried to gift everyone um, one of your astro herbalism boxes, and so I have your Sunny Comfort here, and I just tried it for the first time today, like maybe 30 minutes ago. But hawthorn, lemon balm, bay leaf, motherwort, linden, and lemon verbena, and local honey. I mean, this is fantastic. I was not expecting how warming it was going to be, and so just a couple of drops. It's very nice, and it's timely because I've been clearing the woods and going behind our goats, and so we let our goats go ahead, and then we just come behind and chop anything that's in the way that just try to open up the canopy and develop the wood line and everything. And I found a hawthorn, and it's pretty old, and I'm curious how long it's been there and if it was planted there by someone maybe years ago and they had just, I don't know, it probably had an old homestead there that's since been overgrown. But yeah, I was curious about the medicine for the heart that feels trepidation, like someone that doesn't really feel confident to act, because I see a lot of that in the world these days, is that a lot of people seem to have lost connection to their will center.
Yeah. Yeah. Why is that? Okay. So in the biofield anatomy, the will center, or like our solar plexus, I actually think that, talking about the Lion's Gate, that that we enter our heart space if we're talking in tropical astrology, we enter the heart space at the 21st of June at the summer solstice in Cancer. Okay, that's the emotional heart space. That's the protective heart space. I might even say that's the left side of the heart in the biofield, which is capability of feeling joy, feeling also empathy and grief. And then as we move into Leo, now we're feeling more of that projective aspect in the right side of the heart, which is the masculine side, which is our boundaries. And it's out of love that I would say, don't put that in the light socket. That's a boundary. And it's out of a space of love. And it's also a matter of our particular love. But as we get into I think later into Leo, we're working our way down into our solar plexus area, which is kind of shared with Virgo. And in the biofield anatomy, the solar plexus is where our relationship with our maternal line and our paternal line comes in. So it is the maternal lineage and the influence of the mother over on the left side. Everything on the left side is kind of like the feminine. And over here we have our comforting, protective spleen, which comes and gives a big hug and recharges all of the red blood cells and repairs them, and licks the finger and wipes all this charcoal off its face and stuff. And then over on the right side of the solar plexus area, we have the liver, which is lever pater, I like to call it, which is the father self-sacrificing, organizing principle. And so together, those two, the support of the mother, of the biological mother, and of the maternal line, and condensed into an organ called the spleen, and the protection and order of the father, of the liver, combine to make our will. So having a question, I think, is a really great topic to talk about, because it's a huge topic. We're talking about why is there such a lack of will. I really think that we have to examine an individual and a societal relationship with mother, maternal line, father, paternal line, and the charge of those two. Negative on the mother's side, receptive, and external positive. Now it's been crossed up. It's been so crossed up for years with the advent of so many things, right? And mothers leaving the home and returning to work, or fathers not showing up, not being there for their children, and not growing up even on in themselves, right? So I think that has a lot to do with the individual's manifestation of their will, and recognizing that and releasing those charges is through the biofield anatomy is a really good, I think is a really interesting remedy. But love to hear your thoughts on that too.
Yeah, I think that you really summed that up well. Like, we're as men, we're in charge of the family. We are given the energy to lead and to cultivate a space and to bring safety, security, the basics. But really, without that, you're going to feel lost. If you don't have shelter, you're going to feel lost. You don't have home if you don't, and really, like, it, as men, it's in our interest to provide those things so that a woman can improve upon them. Like, I really jump from project to project that I can't really make it aesthetic. I can't make it very pleasing. And it's so lovely to have someone that wants to do that so that I can continue looking ahead. And myself, I'm a Sagittarius, and I've like started to see these patterns in myself of constantly looking ahead and trying to determine pitfalls that my actions could bring about. And so to be receptive of the feedback that's going on in my relationship with the world, as well as my relationship with my wife, and to really heed her counsel. But she trusts me in that role as being the leader, so that I'm taking the correct steps to provide just the basics. And then, like, woman is bountiful and abundant. And so long as you're providing the building blocks, she will multiply that tenfold.
It's such a great season of the year to talk about leadership too, because we have, we're talking about our role as men, and specifically for the family, right? And also we have authority too. We have our own God to aspire to, do good for, right? So, but the idea of leadership continues down, right? Being a loving, nurturing leader of children for in the home, being a loving, nurturing leader of your siblings for somebody like Joffrey, who shows that example over and over. And just a little bit that I know, and for those of you who are watching, James and I are really good friends, so I'm really glad you're here, man. And I think that word is absolutely appropriate for this time of year. Thinking about your leadership and the pride of your family, the pride of of the lion, and what leadership can bring that lion's share home to share.
Yeah, and so courage and leadership are totally going in hand this time of season. Like we were talking about offline, is that we're about to go into the season of darkness, and so we have to go within ourselves to be good leaders and find the habits that may be limiting us from being a good leader or having courage. And now is the time of year that it actually gets easier to deal with those things, to deal with those things that could be constructs in our subconscious realm. It's a little bit more free moving, whereas in spring and summer, it starts to become a little bit more rigid. And then we're simultaneously cultivating the things that are going to promote our personal growth, but we're not always able to give attention to the things that we need to have self-reflection upon. And so winter and fall are those times of year where you're forced into into self-reflection, and you're forced into re-examining things. And in a posh society, it's very easy to be uh, stirred away from that and to just go along with anything that's just furthering the feel good season of spring and summer. And it's it's one thing whenever you're like, because so you've started to develop your own property, and you're starting to have a vision for how it is that you'll work with the land. You can't use the land as exploitation, and it's really easy to be distanced from that whenever you're not trying to plant things back, to nurture and build the soil. It's really easy to distance ourselves from the fact that the soil is being exploited, life is being exploited, because we've stopped participating. Really, like we're the missing link in a long chain of responsibility, and we have foregone that for technology for the most part. I mean, I'm enjoying speaking with you because we're a long distance away, but if I wasn't doing this, I would be outside working the land. And that's really what we're supposed to do. It's if you want to look at it from an energetic standpoint, you're like discharging the whole time you're working with the land. Just you're able to the if you've ever worked with yourself, you know that you're just working with yourself the entire time you're doing a thing. And these subconscious patterns can come up, and you're just weeding your own garden the whole time. And you may just physically be scooping goat poop, or you may be figuring out the trees that you don't want, and you're like, these guys are just they're not going to thrive here. So these have to come out so that something else can thrive. And it's interesting to see these decisions in boundaries, and how you're not going to allow something to thrive in an area where you want another thing to grow. And it takes a lot of replacing habits with another habit, a good habit, to uproot that. So you don't just leave the space vacant. You put something there that is appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's it all. Yeah, coming down to having your work be a value on your land is is an incredible, really incredible experience. And I really feel like that is the only experience we're worth having. You know, everything else is everything else can. I mean, not worth having. Of course, like, you know, there's other experiences, you know, but as far as your labor goes, in exchange, I want to talk about too some
like labor going towards a 401k isn't really as great.
Right, it's a fiction. It's a complete fiction. It's a bunch of numbers and a dot, and then what? What is it actually? Is it it's money, which is what? It's a binary code that is then printed, that is not backed in anything. It's not backed in anything other than the consent for our labor. I just wanted to bring up St. John's wort because, it's Leo. I think it's a great example of a Leo herb. But we're talking about herbs and boundaries. We're talking about moving into the season, a dark season. And James and I were talking about this off air about not only, you know, the Lionsgate is not just priming us to move into I really feel like the Lionsgate is the precipice of the summer. Like, here we are, we're moving into, everything is kind of like, get ready to go back to school, you know, or whatever from down here, you know, you'll see Christmas decorations and stuff like that starting to go up, and preparing everyone for the fall, right? But also we were talking about in generations of people, and how this is I feel like in the generation or the time of our nation, even it's the winter, and you know, it's natural, it's a cycle. It's hard times, you know, create strong men is how it goes. Well, when talking about how to stimulate the courage, I think a really good way of thinking about that is to think about how that would be effective for you. Like where is it that you feel like you need that that extra help? For somebody who feels they don't have the light at the end of the tunnel, they don't have a direction. For there's point A, there's point B. You could see your direction. You have your will center, your solar plexus that pulls you there, or better yet, you pull that light to you so that it's right here. Like I'm right here. You have a hard time feeling like you can't even see that light, and that's what I really love about St. John's wort. I think it offers it in a most magical way, and I think that this is one of the reasons why it became really popular for quote, antidepressant herb or a replacement for such a thing. Herbs don't work that way. They're not going to be analogous to pharmaceutical remedies at all. In a tissue state model, we could say depression is the tissue state of cold. It's the lack of vitality. It's the lack of vitality. We could just call it that. It's less charged than saying depression. And that would relate to the winter. That would relate to the lack of motivation. So what is even my will? Courage is one thing to go, put on my armor, the complete armor of God, and walk like a badass into the store breathing fresh air. Or I don't even know where the light is to begin with. And I think that St. John's wort is a great remedy for that. You can see on one of the signatures that I love is how you could hold it up to the light and you can see the little holes, the little perforations, perforatums. And to me, that is the signature of the light that's being loosed out of the energetic biofield of our body. We all are beings of light, and within our electromagnetic field, it's a plasma field of light. All these slings and arrows and propaganda and whispers of wars and rumors of wars and all of these things that we worry about kind of just open up all these little holes and start to take away our light. So I love St. John's wort as a plant that blooms at the summer solstice for that winter solstice type of attitude, which can be present at any time. I'm talking about tissue state models here. What's your experience with St. John's wort?
So here we have shrubby St. John's wort that grows here. It doesn't produce that nice red oil though. It's interesting because it's a beautiful kind of nondescript little shrub, and it grows in mainly undisturbed areas, and it tolerates shade pretty well. I haven't worked with it enough. I've tasted the leaves, and I've crushed the flowers, and I just haven't done enough work with it, what we have locally. And it's one of those things that I'm seeking to add to our herb garden this coming spring. I didn't have time to germinate seeds for them. I tried them and skullcap, and I was able to get some very good patches of skullcap. And we also have a wild variety of skullcap that I've been sending you as well. So I haven't done enough work with it to really have to be able to comment on my experience with it. So one thing I asked you not that long ago was if you could help me with a remedy for a really, really bad sunburn. And one of the things that you told me was to use St. John's wort oil. Am I freezing up a lot? I can see the screen.
No, I can hear you. You're coming through.
Is the audio freezing a lot?
No, the audio is
okay.
Pretty clear.
Cool.
Yep.
Yeah, and so I was having stinging. And so I was having stinging, and this was, for all intents and purposes, I was like, it's not that bad of a sunburn. I blistered a little bit, not that big of a deal. But whenever I would wear pants, like my knees would just sting. And so I got some St. John's wort oil from you, and you have an after sun oil that you sent as well, which was fantastic. And I've been putting that on, and man, it's interesting to start working with herbs and not have an expectation, and to just trust what they're able to provide and to just lean into that. And I was using a mentholated rub that I had made as something to help. I mean, I'd used all sorts of things from aloe every day. It was just at the point that it was stinging, almost like getting stinging nettle, but like also at the same time, it was so deep that it was like someone giving you an injection. So it was just extremely uncomfortable. I couldn't even sleep at night. Like blankets on my knee would just disturb me. And so I made this mentholated rub, and the analgesic effect of menthol was really great for just easing me into dreamland. But yeah, so my experience with St. John's wort is minimal. I've used it for um, supporting like leaky symptoms whenever you're just under the weather, and that's helped, but not using it locally. And so I'm curious as to make
It's breaking up. Just muted. One of the things that comes to mind talking about St. John's wort as a nerve remedy. When you were describing your sunburn, I thought, oh yeah, that sounds like there's some nerve involvement. St. John's wort is one of my favorites for the nerves. You can see on the flower on the right how these stamens just like kind of shoot up like rays of the anti-corpuscular rays of the sun. We all know what that means. And the thing that comes to mind for me is that it's a bundle of fiber optics, as if it's bringing light back into the nervous system itself. So I love it for healing any involvement with the nerves. And what you were describing too, when you crush the flower, I think that's mostly available in this. That's mostly available in the Hypericum perforatum. But there's a lot of varieties that don't have that. I think it's called hypericin, which is when you crush it in your finger and it stains it red, as if you took the head of John the Baptist and crushed it and it's bloody right there. And I don't know if that is the medicinal component. That's something that I definitely look for when I'm making my tincture and I'm making my oil-based extractions. Is before I harvest it, I even like to just crush it to see if this batch has it. But I don't know. I wonder if there's other availabilities and properties at play to play around with what you have locally too. I'm also curious, since you're the mushroom guy, if you have any, because when I'm thinking Lionsgate, I'm thinking lion's mane mushroom. And today I got up early and I had to go out of town for a little quick trip out of town. And so I didn't have my regular morning routine, which involves the lion's mane that James from familyfungi.net makes. And that's just what keeps me flowing and regular, able to run a business, able to communicate with people, able to do things on the computer. I feel like it helps me do just about everything because I didn't take it this morning. And I know that it was out of sorts because my morning routine was off and blah, blah, blah. But as soon as I got back and I got the chance, I popped some of those lion's mane and I feel back to normal. They're so helpful for the nervous system and for the mind. And it made me realize in regards to will, cognition, discernment, the ability of knowing, the ability of cutting, discern, is from decidere, we have D as in cut, two, and scissors. So making decisions involves cutting. It involves cutting things out and that boundary. And it made me realize how excellent of a plant, or I should say, a plant medicine worker's repertoire of a mushroom it is for this particular topic in talking about the will, the lion's pride. So could you rap a little bit about lion's mane?
Yeah, totally. I tend to think of lion's mane as centering, like its energetic qualities are very centering, and that is good for the Leo that wants to that can tend to want to charge into battle, that can um, tend to be a little hot headed because they can have that pride and that um, so I don't want to say desire to be in center stage, but also they have a strong will, so they're going to push themselves forward, and they have their own momentum. This is almost like having a counselor in your back pocket that's like, hey, let's just take it a little bit slower. Let's have a bit of reflection. I like to think about that for lion's mane with respect to what we're talking about, but I also feel energetically that it is cooling. So I get what I get energetically is like centering, cooling, and also moistening. And so those are the types of energies that I get from that. One of the things that I would say is that would be for someone that is the go-getter, that is looking for a little bit of added support. Whereas I would say cordyceps militaris would be something that I would suggest for someone that is um, a little bit more reluctant in their willfulness. They're having a struggle to connect with that, and so this is something that's a great tonic for the adrenals. It's also really good for oxygenating our tissues. So this is something that's going to um, enliven. I mean, you can see from the color of it, like it feels like it gives you the chi. It feels like it gives you the juice. So this is something that I would really recommend for people that are finding themselves at that point of adrenal burnout or fatigue, that they're just needing a little bit of something to help with those tissues, to enliven those tissues, but it's not excitatory. So it's not like trying to rely on caffeine and trying to rely on some sort of stimulant. But it stimulates in the sense that it is opening up the flow for nourishment. So it's really great to use this for someone, whether they're a Leo or not, but use this for someone that is having trouble with addressing stress. This and yes, this and reishi and lion's mane together, I find them all three are very good. Like reishi is like having the sage. The sage can come and sit with you and can deal with the energies from any direction, whether it's too much wind, it's great for the lungs. Whether it's too much water, it's great for helping the lymphatic system. Whether it's too much fire, it can be tonifying and bitter, and help um, with that, with moving the energy in the liver. Because a lot of times people will just they're almost hard right there. Like if you ever palpate your stomach, and you can just like feel where you've been holding energy for a day or since the last time you touched your stomach. But if you try to feel where that energy is stuck within your own body, you can start to gravitate towards a lot of these herbs and mushrooms that are going to support that area that you need. And a lot of times we can feel the stress mentally, but we may be so up here that we're not bringing our awareness back down to our gut level. And so it can take some willing to do that. You got to be willing to really massage in there, because it can be quite uncomfortable if you've never done it. And there are many people that just don't touch their own body, but you should, so that you can start to move some stuck energy around. And so lion's mane is really good at supporting a nervous system that is overactive and may need that cooling quality to it. And that tends to happen in people that are high performance, and that tends to lump in a lot of Leos right there. And so lion's mane, cordyceps and reishi, either taken individually or taken together, can help with supporting people that are finding themselves needing a little extra, I don't want to say a push, but a little respite from pushing too much, but still enlivening you to be able to continue without exhausting yourself.
That's awesome. Yeah, one of the things you've actually introduced me to a long time ago when I first met you was the daily practice of decompression of my gut, right? Really putting my fingers underneath my rib cage, feeling that stuff. I really think as men too, in particular, I think this is what you told me, and I resonated with it. That as men, we have a hard exterior. We prepare ourselves energetically to block and be in the way and take the hit, right? It's for especially a family man has gone through a scenario sometime in his mind of, I will stand in front of something at any time. So we kind of carry that in our field wherever we go. We'll just we'll take the hit. And so it really is important to get in there and twist and turn that fascia, move it around. And you taught me about stopchasingpain.com, I think it is. And anyway, there's some great movements and everything like that.
Yeah, I kind of want to go ahead and address this question from Heartwood Healing. I would ask what you're taking. First of all, is it an extract or is it a powder? If it's a powder, mushrooms, the substrate, the makeup of them is high in chitin, and for some people that can leave you inflamed. And so I recommend that you take mushroom extracts or that you cook them thoroughly. And not all mushroom powders are dried at a high enough temperature to start breaking that chitin down. And some people have some issues with digesting chitin. So I don't really know. If you're taking those things individually, or are you taking something that's like everyday dose or one of these highly marketed things, I'm not sure. I would have to have a little bit more information, but it could be that it's just fruiting body powder, and that could be something that is doing it for you. Or if it's fruiting body and mycelium, then it could be the grains that the mycelium's grown on, which there's still a debate in the mushroom world about all fruit bodies versus fruit bodies and mycelium, and which is better. And it honestly depends. Like lion's mane has hericenones and erinacines, which are like the main components of interest, but they're in differing amounts in the mycelium versus the fruit body. And so the jury's kind of out on like whether one is better than the other, or you should take both of those together, a mixture of the mycelium and the fruiting body. And I also think that, just a side tangent, mycelium's really interesting because it also produces the different enzymes and other things that aren't necessarily looked at as the marketable trait of using that mushroom as a supplement. But just, it might be that you need to switch to an extract. And if it's an extract, I think that you would find that you don't have those issues and that you have a lower dosage threshold, so you use less, and that's nice.
Great answer. If you're, since thanks, Polymathic. Since you ask, check out these products here. Familyfungi.net. This is James's company who are speaking with today, because he's aware and of all of the implications of bad medicine making. You're not going to find that in these products at all. With your use of multi-functional extractions, soxhlet extractions, growing your own mushrooms, making your own products, and it's a family business. It's awesome. That's one of the things that I love about family businesses in general. Is just that imagining the skills that are coming from, raising your children in the same proximity as your as what you do for your skill. It makes your work pleasurable. It makes your work love. It puts that love back into the products and brings that medicine for the people. Your health is true wealth. It couldn't have been said better. That's so awesome.
Yeah. And so I encourage people to always look to making your own medicine, putting your hands into the work as well, because it matters the relationship that you have with it. And so getting to learn the land, whether that's starting doing ID courses, like one of the things that I severely miss is that I can't go to one of Kyle's herb walks. I mean, it's just spending 20 minutes with Kyle is like going through a large private encyclopedia. I mean, it's phenomenal. And so getting yourself familiar with the land so that you can start to provide for yourself some of these things, whether it's in the form of a tea or a tincture or some extract or anything like that, so that you can start to develop this sense about what you're using and what it's doing with you. It becomes a relationship, and it doesn't become you're broken and you need help and I'm here to help you. It's more like, hey buddy, it's that time of year and you have the constitution that I support. And so it's about being able to find where you fit in the natural world. And all of these things are here to help us. We just have to have the wisdom to know when is the time for them and where they're at. And so I always try to encourage people to do that, because you don't have to go spend money and you don't have to base it on that. But supporting small family businesses is fantastic. We love doing what we do. Kyle is one of the most knowledgeable people. And if I have a question about anything, I'm like, hey man, what's your feeling on this? I don't ask him to give me, I don't want a book description. I want his feeling, because from that, I can feel that in my heart and integrate it from my personal lesson on whatever I'm trying to figure out about an herb, about a condition. And again, we're all just kind of using each other as a way to understand our own psychology and get into that subconscious layer of ourselves to put our best foot forward and be courageous and taking on the world,
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it. Hey,
Oh yeah.
while I got you here, you mind if I ask you something here? I have this is something that came to my mind today, was the chestahedron. Have you ever heard of this? The chestahedron? Yeah, of course you have. The chestahedron is named after the sculptor that found it, whose last name is Chester, but it just so happens that it's the same shape, the seven-sided shape that is the seven-sided shape of the heart. And I think it's really cool. If you put it into a box, you put it into this box here, this four-sided 90-degree angle box. When all of these angles kind of touch the box, it's at a 36 degree. It sits at a 36 degree angle inside of a box, which is the same angle that our heart, also a chestahedron, a seven-sided tetrahedron, I guess, sits inside of our heart, or our chest, our box as well. So this came to mind today, and I just trying to wrap my head around it, and I finally did. Basically, it consists of 4 isosceles triangles. You could kind of see that in this pattern right here, right on the side of this cube here, or of this whatever this thing is called, prism. And then, so 4 isosceles triangles, and then 3 kites. So if you put those together, you get a chestahedron. And that makes the vortexing quality of our heart, which is what spins our blood and moves our blood. It's kind of like the heart is not a pump at all, even though this is I think it's been pretty thoroughly debunked now that the heart's not a pump. However, for whatever reason in academia and in practical circles, people still talk about, the heart is a pump, whatever. I think of it's more like the person that is at the merry-go-round at the playground that just like every once in a while they're like on their phone scrolling while their kid is like like screaming and flying around, and every once in a while just kind of like whoosh, 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 and just kind of keeps that vortex moving. And so that's what it's doing. It's like moving the spinning the vortex of the blood. So what moves the blood is the negative charge of the red blood cell. The red blood cell has a negative charge, and if you know about easy water, which I know you do, the negative charge of the red blood cell repels against other negatively charged blood cells, and the inner surface of the arterial walls, which makes a perpetual motion machine, basically. Oh, how dare you! You can't. There's no such thing, but it is. That's what it is. And
so one thing that I notice about the triangles is that is the shape for molecular water as well.
yes, you're right. It's as in like the 51.8 degree pyramid of.
Whoops.
Sorry about that. I'm just messing around here. The only incommensurate geometry that exists, right? So, yeah, I think that's really interesting. So when I was thinking about that earlier, I was thinking about herbs and courage, and as you had brought to my mind, and one of the things, the first one that came to mind was borage. Somebody mentioned cactus. I kind of like that too. But the other thing that I was thinking about is things that improve that negative charge in the body. Because the more of that negative charge that you have inside of your body, the more of the circulation and response that you're going to have against those hydrophilic surfaces on the interior. That's going to create more of that flow of energy. And I've just been eating so much watermelon lately, and cucurbitaceas, the watermelon family plants, right? They're just crushing. They're crushing right now. And those are so highly negative charged and hydrating, and they're just basically like a rind with a bunch of easy water on the inside. And I was like, I'm kind of making a case in my mind how a watermelon or a zucchini or a muskmelon or a Seminole pumpkin, which you're growing, is a plant of courage and will, and how they have that will on their own. And they kind of like climb walls and spread out. And they're like, you got a yard here? Too bad. I'm going to turn it into a patch. And I don't know. What do you think about that?
Funny enough, like most of them have spiky trichomes that run the length of the stem, and so it's kind of got that same feel as a cactus. You gotta have some courage if you're gonna go in there, because like if you just brush up against it, it's it can kind of like sting a little bit. It's not that big of a deal, but it lets you know like, hey, you're bumping up against me. It's interesting though, because they all have this hollow center, and they're producing this abundant fruit. It's really interesting. Like it's not a very sturdy plant, but it's still going to forge ahead, and like it finds a way, man. It's really interesting just watching them spread. Like I love growing the pumpkins because they'll just do their own thing. Like once they're sown, and I just keep them watered the first like maybe 6 weeks if we are dry, they'll do their thing, and then I don't really have to do anything. Like they find fertility, they just keep going. They have the way of steering themselves around the garden and just anywhere else. So they have their own will center very strong. And the nourishing aspect of them is really nice, because I think of warm centeredness with all of those things. Like they all have some sort of orange, yellow, reddish hues on the inside. And then a lot of these like winter varieties will also put on a hard shell. And that like watermelon rinds are pretty hard. You're not going to just go start snacking right into it. And so there's still that exterior that is protective, but then that interior that is, like we were talking about with the masculine, is that you got that interior that's still soft for your children. You have that interior that's still nourishing for those that you let inside, that you allow past that protective layer. And it's important for us, just to reflect this out on society, it's important for us to start finding and reestablishing those boundaries, because over the past 70 years or so now, it's been very ingrained that boundaries are a negative thing, and instead people need to be more open. And it's cool to have openness within your consensual relationships, whether you're going to be friends with someone, but you shouldn't be forced to associate with people that you have dissimilar values or morals from, just so everyone's feelings are intact. And so if your feelings don't like it, like the pumpkins don't care, they're gonna grow right around. If you are forging ahead in building your life in a very authentic way that isn't trying to put on a persona for someone else, then you're going to find that there's honestly less resistance, because you just, like, the resistance that you get is actually like the nudge to keep you going forward. And you got to have the courage to just take that next step. It's funny. Do you have the coin right handy? The labyrinth coin? I don't have one handy here, but like, so a labyrinth is, it has a center. It has an entrance and it has a center, and it's winding. But if you just keep going, you can get to the center, and the way out is the way in. But you just have to have the courage to take the next step. You're muted, buddy. Still muted, buddy.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. I just mentioned that's the difference between the labyrinth and the maze, and that the maze is designed, right, to make you lost and fearful even. And the labyrinth is there to give you pause and reflection, and to know that you're on the course. Of course, I just Googling labyrinth, and it comes up with this guy. So, all right. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Cool, man. If anyone else wants to hop on, like, hop in the chat. There's StreamYard links in there.
Yep.
Do you have some more slides that you're wanting to go through as well?
Yeah, let me bring up my slides here, and I got a couple more. And in case, just fill in a little bit more time, unless anybody wants to jump in. Let's see here. Yeah, this has been great so far. Thanks so much for being here too, James. All right, so I lost my tab, but I'm back on it. The other plant that comes to mind for all of Leo is motherwort. And let's see here. Is this going to work? So motherwort, Leonuris cardiaca. In the botanical name of motherwort, you have Leo. You have the lion. Nuris refers to the heart, and Nuris refers to the tail. And cardiaca refers to the heart. So it's like lion tail heart is another way of saying it. And let's see here. Is this it? I think so. It's kind of got, okay, enter full screen mode. Are you seeing this? No. There we go. All right, motherwort, Leonuris cardiaca. One of the things I love about, it's a mint family plant, like skullcap, like wood betony. There's a couple of mint family plants that, and Prunellus vulgara or heal-all. There's some mint family plants that don't have any scent. They don't have any smell. So their virtues aren't coming from their aromatic abundance. They're not projective in their medicine. They're actually, they pull you in. This plant in particular is super, super bitter. Is my audio off? Oh no. Is my audio? Am I not?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. So I don't know what's going on there, Kabir. If can anybody else hear me? Anybody else have trouble hearing me? Thanks. Yeah, motherwort. So anyway, because it's super bitter, it actually really brings people back to their center. And I think of this as another, not necessarily, going back to the topic of the will and stepping through the lion's gate, having the courage to face what it is that we want to manifest, which by the way is, I think, probably one of the hardest things that anybody can go through, is the honest self-reflection of what is it that I want? What do I really want? Because in order to think about that, from the most beneficial perspective, you have to be brutally honest with yourself in order to examine all of the pain, and shortcomings and everything like that we've been through. And so with that in mind, for somebody who is kind of reluctant to go into that courageous space because of all of the mental noise, as opposed to that heart-centered feeling in the bodiness, I think about motherwort as a plant that calms down that mental noise, brings it back into the body through the flavor of bitter. I call it the time out of mind plant. Like, I'm thinking about things in the future that might happen, and it kind of scares me to think about, like, oh, what's going to happen in this situation? And I'm staying up at night, and it's making my heart pound, pump, 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 and I'm having like a physiological reaction to something that actually isn't present at all. Or something in the past. Man, I wish I wouldn't have said that. Man, it was such a dumb stream. Mercury retrograde really screwed me up. Blah, 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 blah. Lots of chatter. And the same thing, heart palpitations. So bringing it back into the body, tasting motherwort as a tea, or just tasting it in general, like, it'll just zap you back to your body immediately. So that's why a lot of times people work with it as a tincture. But the thing that I always notice when it takes to harvest motherwort is, again, that courage, because if you look here on the picture on the right, it's got these spiky little spiky balls that are where the flowers were, and then they're becoming seeds, and they don't poke you or make you bleed like brambles or roses or cactuses. They're just little self-correcting awareness jabs is kind of what they are, and bringing you back into the present, like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I even know, like, when I'm going in, I'm like, okay, motherwort, I felt this before, I know it's going to kind of, wow. It just kind of gets me by surprise, like, whoa, was not expecting that. And it's always in a rhythm. It's always in these clumps. They're like bumps. They look like the sine wave. They look like the analema. They look like the pattern of the heart. Pump, 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 moving and moving and moving. And so this is a plant that I think is a really good one for facing courage in grief, facing courage in loss. In particular, I'm thinking of, like, it's going to be really hard for me to stand up there and give a eulogy at this funeral. I don't know if I have it in me. So motherwort, it's protective of that. It's protective of that most vulnerable space of expression and bringing us back into our body. And I think it's, that's a very heightened, acute instance, right? A funeral eulogy, but something that's like long and drawn out, that has a lot to do with like mental chatter, maybe a component of grief, a component of loss, a component of not knowing where your heart feels centered, and even heart palpitations in general. And yeah, more of that motherly lion pride type of vibe of a medicine, rather than that get up and roar that we've maybe described previously. Thoughts?
So when you're working with motherwort, are you harvesting it whenever it's in flower? Do you harvest it whenever it's before flowering?
I
Do you kind
like
of treat it? Go ahead.
I like a little bit of both. I really like the where here in Wisconsin, it's like one of the first plants that comes up in the springtime. And so I get like, oh, cool, I'm gonna make this medicine and make this one and make this one. And so it's one of the first ones I make just because it's like one of the first big, tall green plants. But then I go back later in the summer and I'll add some of the tall um, flowering parts to it. And at this point, when it's like in flower, the stem is really woody and it's kind of hard to process. It's actually one of the hardest plants to process in our apothecary because it gets so fuzzy and it takes up a lot of space and it sucks up a lot of alcohol. So it's really, really hard to blend with the proper ratio of alcohol. If you're making it the way that I like to make herbal tinctures, which is typically 1 part herb by weight to 2 parts alcohol by volume. And so it just takes a lot. So I like to combine it so I can use some of the liquidy um, uh, watery leaf plant from before and kind of mix it in so I have a little bit more menstruum, or at least it feels like I have more for my buck. Have you worked with motherwort? Do you have motherwort down there?
It's not. I don't know if it's native, but I have not come across it. And the leaves actually remind me of uh, a plant down here called Monglier, or groundsel brush, or I think it's also called consumption weed, which I think that there's actually several things that are that. Um, and just the leaf shape reminded me of that, kind of like the duck foot right there, that 3 points. And
Mm-hmm.
it's one that I don't really work with a lot here, and Elise wants to work with more in a lot of her in more of her extracts projects that she's going to do for coming forward. And in your products, you had sent a tincture. You and Serena had sent a tincture after, I guess it was after Emmanuel was born, and it was one of those things that it's kind of like bone set. Like whenever you taste it, like you're like you know that is that, and you get an immediate energetic response from it. And like you said, very calming. It's like a mother's hug, but it's like if you're upset and then your mom hugged you and it kind of like shook you out of it, and you're like, whoa, you didn't, and then you like come down and you didn't realize how just wound up you were whenever you were upset, and then that hug kind of like, I don't want to say shocks you, but it like brings you back in rhythm, and that coming back into rhythm is kind of what gives you that sort of jolt. Like you get a little bit of that electricity from it, like because it's very bitter. It's but it's nice. Like I've grown to enjoy intensely bitter herbs, and part of
I
that.
definitely feel the electricity too. Like I get that. That's what it like. The feeling is the prickle is more of like an electric shock to me than a a pokey thing, and the feeling of like I would say tasting it is more of like a magnetic pull inwards is what I feel, as opposed to like some other digestive bitters. It really just like. Um, Somebody asked, is motherwort good for babies? Motherwort is gross. It's so gross. It's so gross. So if you have a baby that's an herbalist baby, they'll probably take it like we do. Um, and otherwise, just have some. I think it's a really good thing to have on hand for mama. If mama can is nursing, like that's the way that I would recommend administering it. Is just like tincture uh, that's going to, end up downstream. Not everybody has that privilege, I guess. So um, that's
So
why. Yeah,
so
go
one
ahead.
thing that I would recommend that we did again with bone set is to apply it to the scalp or to the back of the neck, and that's a good way.
Ah,
It just a couple of drops, and assess from there to see if maybe the next time you might do 4 drops instead of 2. But that's a good way because transdermally absorbing things through our skin is a really nice way of um, taking in medicine and it not having the strongest effect. It's almost like having an essence of a plant, um, where you can still get the energetic and you can absorb a lot of active components as well, but you don't have to just, this is one of the things that I was telling someone recently, you don't have to just take a full dropper of a given herbal extract. You don't have to do that, but you can do a couple of drops and you can see, give yourself time to sit with it just a couple minutes to I mean, just don't busy yourself. Take a couple drops, sit with it. If you need the whole dropper, you'll know. You'll intuit it, but don't try to rush into it as though you're not broken and you're trying to fix yourself. You're using these plants as allies so that you can do the work inside of yourself that you need to do, because our bodies are innately intelligent. We just need to support them. So take a couple drops. And so for kids with things that are intensely bitter or that are unpalatable, either make a nice tea with something like chamomile. We do chamomile, fennel, and pretty much any tea that we're making. It's just very nice and helps with digestion and very calming. And then you can put a couple of drops in the tea, and that's something that would be good. But
Yep.
very hard to get kids to take boneset after they've tasted it. They're like,
I totally forget. I forget all the time about transdermal applications of tinctures, unless I'm working with one that I specifically make, like Solomon seal. But that's totally spot on, and that's the difference between um, the intention of make it stop, versus I would like to make it stop. It's like claiming your authority in this, or I would like to feel this all the way so that it's gone, as opposed to make it stop, right? And it's like claiming my authority in this process. I am a human being. I Grief and hardship make me stronger. I'm here for this experience. It's really, really hard. I need something to help me get through it. But I'm not going to, remove myself from the situation. I don't think even a 30 drop dose of motherwort does that anyway, but that intention is really the difference between what you were just speaking about transdermally and even in essence. And I think it's awesome. My friend Sarah is here, who was in our class a couple years ago and made motherwort preparations for our class. A motherwort oil that was made with all the motherwort from her property, a motherwort tincture, and a motherwort flower essence. And I still have that flower essence, and I still work with it, and I still use it, and it's awesome, Sarah. Way to go. And at that particular time, this was kind of like the cobbler's kids have no shoes thing going on, where my wife really needed some motherwort, and I was like, yeah, honey, I'll bring some home. We get, and I keep forgetting. Day goes by, I keep forgetting. Oh, I'll bring some home. And then finally, I come home from from class one day with motherwort from Sarah, and that lived in our house for a long time. That was a super big help. So I know there's some motherwort mamas in here that are big fans of motherwort. Let's talk about one last plant here. This is the bay leaf, Laurus nobilis. Also, the chief delegate of the bay laurel family. Lauraceae. So bay laurel going down to the underworld, petitioning to the creator about whatever. And I could just see, all of the members of the bay laurel family coming together and being like, make sure you tell the creator about this. And there's cinnamon saying, make sure you tell. And then there's avocado saying, make sure you tell him about this. And then there's bay laurel, the Caesar-like representative going, I got it. I'm the best at at being the delegate of our plant family. And to me, this is definitely a big Leo vibe of a plant. I mean, it's sacred to Apollo, which is the god of the sun. And the whole story was that the short story is Apollo went to Delphi. There was this python that was there, a big snake, killed it with his bow and arrow was like Apollo's kind of a jock, so he's like, look, yeah, woo, and celebrating and stuff like that, and was just like walking around looking for some high fives, and Eros, Cupid was there, and was like, and he's like, you call that a bow and arrow? Because it's just like a little, a rote, with a little bow and arrow, and he was offended, so he took out one lead arrow and went, and shot it over to Daphne, who was a water nymph. And that made her detest the first thing that she saw. And they took a gold arrow out and went right to Apollo, and it made him fall in love with the first thing he saw, which was Daphne. So she wanted to get away, he wanted it, and as he was pursuing her, she cried out to her father, who was the river, to turn her into a bay laurel tree so that, preserve her chastity. And he took the bay laurel tree and was like, oh, well, it's still my trophy. And that's where the bay laurel comes from. This laurel wreath comes as a symbol of accomplishment of your will. And still today, we have the laurel wreaths that represent the head achiever, the Olympics, even the Caesar, the one that achieved in back in Italy. They still, even for graduates of their doctorate or their master's degree, they still give them a wreath of bay laurel to wear. And so in June, you'll see people walking around town in Italy with their laurel wreaths. And that's where the expression "don't rest on your laurels" comes from, which is, look, it's okay to accomplish things, but don't just put your elbows down and say, hey, look what I got. I got myself a laurel wreath here, Hey, look, I'm Michael Phelps. I got 1 gold medal. Who? Who are you? People would say, if that was the case, right? So yeah, I think of this as a plant that will help us I think it's very important to be working towards a goal, towards achieving something that we could celebrate, wearing that celebration at night, and then moving on, taking up your work, creating it for the sake of creating it, and then letting it go, and then just moving into the next phase and letting all of that work come behind you instead of dragging it along the sides. And so bay laurel has this magic connotation to it as well. It's a great plant for hedges, so there's this boundary aspect to it as well. It's the weird leaf that people can't really describe in soup, right? It's like, it's got a kind of flavor. It's just like yummy. So, but I think it's very nice, drying, aromatic, and I love that it's so fibrous. It doesn't dissolve. It's almost like it really does stand the test of time of in the same way that like an achievement does too. But don't rest on it. You ever work with laurel or have any thoughts on that?
So it's a big part of cuisine in Louisiana, and it's very funny because I tell people to use reishi in soup, stocks, bone broth, but to use it the first thing they'll say is, "Do I eat it?" I have a piece of dried reishi on the table. And I'm like, no, like feel that. It's gonna feel just like that after it's cooked. Like you would use it like a bay leaf. You would infuse your soup or your stock or your bone broth with it. Or you can just make tea with it, but you would take it out just like you would a bay leaf. You're not going to want to eat it. Yeah. And so we actually have access to a really nice bay tree that Elise's grandma planted or gifted her dad to plant. Either way, it's a very nice bay tree, and we haven't used it so much for medicinal purposes. I've used it as incense, and I've used it as an ant repellent. I've used it for several different things that are just kind of like quirky, pragmatic, but I haven't used it so much as medicine, and except for using your blends that have it in it, which are fantastic. And like you said, you get fresh bay, and it's just very, very fragrant. even even dried bay, but like fresh bay, especially whenever it's starting to put on little buds, like you can crush the buds up and you can smell those, just very fragrant and aromatic. I'd be interested to do some buds because it's about the time of season for that, to grab some and make a nice tea with that. But as far as tinctures and extracts, it's one of the things that I haven't ventured into yet.
Yeah, that's in the Sunny Comfort that you were featuring there. I just worked with it once, this that one time, and just because it's so brightening, and I've learned more about how it's great for gladdening the anxious and, let's just say, when I say depressed, I'm talking about tissue state, cold, um, lack of excitation, and and also for incense. It's one of my favorites for incense for sure. And yes, bay leaf, bee leaf, and be a leaf. As in Daphne, she became a leaf, right? That's the fate of a lot of stories from um, that come down from Olympus, I guess. Turning people into plants as punishments or as mercy. But yeah, man. Um, I think that's a pretty good place to end it right there. Feeling the wrap up
I think
coming
so.
in, and
Yeah,
just want
I
to
got a
thank you for
bouncy
being
little
on.
boy.
And yeah, I know I do too. And so yeah, thanks for jumping on, talking about some, Leo stuff, talking about Lionsgate. It's awesome to have you, James from FamilyFungi.net. Y'all in the chat, thank you so much for being here too. Go to Family Fungi, get yourself some of the best lion's mane extract that you can find. Really, it's amazing. This guy grows it, does it with his family. Many other remedies there too, including one that's called Remedy, right? Is that you got one like that? Yeah.
Yeah.
But you got any last thoughts or good?
Um, I'm good. Yeah, I really enjoyed this, man. Thanks for letting me come on. I just had a moment of inspiration whenever I saw that you were doing the live and you were doing call-ins. I was like, oh man, I want to call in. I don't really have anything to say. And then I was like, I I kind of have a question that I feel would benefit a lot of people. Like I have things that I rely on in my personal practice for helping to encourage me, and it's not specifically herbal. It's also just practicing a mindset. But sometimes people need a little bit of assistance to get into to kind of get the momentum building, and it's very interesting to start finding our own edges so that we can work to move towards feeling courage and not feeling shrunk by this world, not feeling like we're going up against something that is that's so much larger than us that we don't have a chance. Because a lot of people, I feel, can slip into despair without realizing that on the way they passed up courage and they passed up a lot of their potential. And it could just be as simple as supporting an energetic state that's out of balance in your body, maybe with some herbs. And so, herbs for courage and herbs for Leo, man.
Right on. Yeah, thanks for jumping on. You kept the stream going too. I didn't really have much to say, so I'm glad you're here. And if any of y'all in the chat or watching later like this, then let me know. I'd like to do some more call-ins. I think it'd be really cool to just keep taking multiple people. Of course, James was on for the whole time, and that was awesome too. So, hey, y'all have a wonderful summer ahead. I'll be back for some more streams in a couple weeks or so. Ciao for now. Thanks, y'all. Much love.